Okay, I think I got it. So right now, everyone, I am currently live on YouTube and on TikTok. So if you see my eyes kind of moving around, that's why. So I apologize if you might feel like I'm ignoring you or anything like that. Hi, Ronnie. Welcome in. So yeah, so I'll be going live tonight. I'm going to be talking about overcoming negative self-talk. So those moments where you're basically talking smack on yourself, right? So like you become very hard on yourself, super judgmental on maybe decisions that we've made. So just having that negative self-talk, what we all do, we kind of tend to be really hard on ourselves and then super good with other people, right? So does that resonate with anyone? Have y'all ever like called yourself out for just talking negatively on yourself? Or have you ever noticed yourself doing that? Oh, hey Nika. Welcome in. Thank you for coming. So I'm going live today on TikTok and on YouTube. So you'll see my eyes kind of shift back and forth. You noticed yourself doing it today? Yeah. Some days are harder than others. Some days we do really well and we don't really, say anything negative to ourselves. But then there's other days where it's like our minds just kind of take over and we just go to that place. Thank you so much for the roses. Appreciate it. And for the heart me. Has anyone else felt like that sometimes when, you hit this roadblock in your growth journey and you start noticing that inner critic? You start noticing that you start critiquing yourself, and it's almost like over time you start convincing yourself that you're just not enough, that you're just not worthy, right? So today we're going to break down the topic of overcoming negative self-talk into 3 different parts. Thank you for sharing the live. Part 1, we're going to talk about why negative self-talk is so damaging to us. Part 2, we're going to talk about recognizing our inner critic, right? That voice that we hear in our head. And then part 3, we're going to talk about ways to actually reframe those thoughts, right? Like how can we at least have some sense of control over those thoughts? Because at the end of the day, the thoughts are going to come, but it's up to us to know and prepare ourselves. What do we do when those thoughts come? Are we just going to let them fester? Or are we going to try to like at least have some type of control over them, right? Thank you so much, Nika. I appreciate it. I like how one of them is a rosa. It's like the Puerto Rican rose, So I'm going to give it another minute, and then I'll get started. Hi, everyone on YouTube. Can y'all hear me okay on YouTube? You can give me a thumbs up if you hear everything okay there. All right. Rosa, yeah. So like I was saying, we're going to be talking about overcoming negative self-talk. And I broke it down into 3 sections. Part 1 is going to be why the negative self-talk is so damaging to us. Part 2 is recognizing that inner critic. And then part 3 is basically sharing some tips and some ways that you can reframe those negative negative thoughts. That way you're not stuck in that, right? Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start off by talking about why that negative self-talk can be so damaging, right? So, of course, thank you, Joey. That's my brother, y'all. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. So again, negative self-talk, it doesn't just hurt your feelings, right? It's something that over time can literally shape your life, right? So if you get so caught up in these negative thoughts, talking to yourself negatively all the time, it begins to shape your confidence and the actions that you decide to take in your life, right? So if you keep telling yourself, I'm not good at this, you're less likely to even try it, right? So, for example, someone who constantly is saying, "Oh, I'm terrible at public speaking," they're going to avoid the opportunity to speak publicly. They're going to avoid opportunities that might present themselves that might be really good for them, but they're just not comfortable in stepping out of that because they just say, "I'm a terrible public speaker. I can't do it." Nika said, "Yes, so true. It shapes our confidence 100%. Yeah, definitely. And I've seen it in myself. When I do that negative self-talk or have those negative thoughts that kind of stop me from trying something, I notice that I'm like, dude, if I would have just tried, maybe I could have convinced myself that that it was fine, that I could do it. Hey, wifey. Okay, purr. Don't tell Lionel. Nah. I was playing. That's my work wife, y'all. Debbie, she's here. Hey, Mommy Bendición. Mama's in the house. So yeah, so for sure, these negative self-talk is so damaging because it literally shapes our confidence and the actions that we take. Yup. Debbie said he knows my number one, period. So yeah, so it shapes our confidence and it shapes our actions because at the end of the day, what you think of and the words that you put within your mind, that's gonna have an effect on your confidence. It's gonna have an effect on the choices that you make and the actions that you take. And then another reason why negative self-talk is so damaging is because it reinforces our fears, right? So the negative thoughts kind of tend to exaggerate mistakes before they even happen, right? So let's say, for example, you could say, if I try, I'll mess it up. And then the brain starts choosing that comfort of security versus the growth, right? The fear that, okay, maybe it is a possibility. Debbie said, negative talks always comes through louder than the positive. Yeah, but the problem is we can switch that. We can make that shift in our minds. We just have to call ourselves out when we notice it, right? So once you're aware that the negative talk is coming through, now you have a weapon. Now you're like, okay, I hear you. Okay, bad Debbie, I heard that negative thought. Why are you coming here? Why are you lying right now, right? Hi, Shayla. Hi, Arbaz. Thank you guys for joining on YouTube. If y'all can hear me okay, let me know. And I'm not very active on live on YouTube. This is only my second time going live, so please let me know if you have any issues in hearing everything. And welcome. So again, the negative self-talk, it reinforces that fear of failure. Awesome. Thank you so much, Shelia. And welcome. I'm happy to see you here. Okay. So again, it reinforces that fear of failure. So for example, if you mess something up at work, right? And now you start thinking, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Now, next time I do this, what if I mess it up again? Right? Yeah. And Debbie, it's funny, me and Debbie work together, y'all. So that's why I thought about work. Because this week has been crazy for us at work. I don't know what's going on in the world, but whatever planets are weirdly aligned, I don't know what happened, but it literally was crazy at work this week. So it's funny because you start kind of getting your head into that like negative thought, negative mindset, where you start like exaggerating mistakes or exaggerating the issue. And then your brain starts kind of saying, well, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm not capable. I don't have the bandwidth to deal with this. I don't have the patience for this. So then you rather just give up and like retreat, right? Because it's comfortable. When you're secure and you're safe, you have that comfort, right? Hey, Ron. I'm live on TikTok and on YouTube. So Debbie's actually on TikTok, so y'all can't see her. I promise I'm not making anyone's names up. But yeah, sorry about that. I know that's kind of weird and confusing. So you'll hear me kind of say things about people, and it's because they're commenting on TikTok. But welcome, Ron. Okay. So another reason why the negative self-talk can be so damaging is because it can create like this self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So now not only are we letting it shape our confidence and the actions that we take, we're letting it reinforce that fear of failure. And then we're creating like this prophecy in our mind, like, see, I knew it, right? So what we repeat is what we start to believe, right? What we believe is what we act on, and what we act on becomes our reality. So I want to ask a question, and I want you to drop your favorite emoji if you've ever psyched yourself out of doing something before you even started it. So have y'all ever psyched yourself out of doing something before you even started it? I can tell you I do this all the time. Either that or I procrastinate. I tend to procrastinate. When I don't feel confident about something that I need to do, I tend to put it off and put it off and put it off. How about you guys? Debbie on TikTok said all the time. Yes. Yes. Definitely. And this could be any aspect of your life. It could be at work. If there's a task that you need to do that you don't generally do it, that can be scary. Or at home, if something happened with your kids and now you have to have a weird conversation you've never had, it's difficult. We have someone on TikTok saying definitely. You said drinking, Debbie? Oh, drinking cold coffee? Wait, you're drinking coffee right now? Anybody else? Oh, yeah. I'm drinking coffee. Yes, you're right. Yes, sorry about that. Okay, so now that we've talked about why negative self-talk can be so damaging, I want to move to part 2. Hey, abuela. I figured I didn't want to assume it was you, but I figured when I saw user 584 blah blah blah, I was like, okay, that's abuela. Yeah, Debbie, I know. I can't hide this coffee from you. I know. Mama, it's okay. I know you're driving. Don't worry. I know you're here with me. So I want to remind you that most of the voices that you hear, that inner critic that you hear, it's not you, right? It's something that you've learned from your past experience, some criticism that you might have heard before, societal expectations, the expectations that you feel pressure from, right? Whether it's family, whether it's society, right? And then I want you to remind yourself that these thoughts, they're not the truth of who you are, right? They don't define you. So I want to start off with part 2, recognizing that inner critic. I feel like if you have the knowledge and if you have the tools of knowing who that inner critic, what it sounds like, what it says to you, it's so much easier for you to recognize it and fight against it. You know what I'm saying? So I want you to basically know. I want you to recognize that inner critic so you can do something about it. So again, you can't quiet the critic if you don't recognize it. So you can't quiet those negative thoughts if you don't recognize that those are not you, that those are not valid, right? So I'm going to break it down into 3 sections. So first I want to start by letting you know that you can recognize this inner critic by knowing that the statements that it makes tend to be harsh, right? It's like always or never statements. So for example, I always screw up. I'll never be enough, right? So the always and the never, it's always an exaggerated statement. It's always something that kind of pops in your head and it's very exaggerated. It's very dramatic, right? So does that resonate with you? Have y'all ever thought like that? When you were thinking about, oh, well, let me think about if I have negative thoughts or negative self-talk. Do I hear those statements? Have I said that to myself before in my mind? And you don't have to share the statement. Just let me know if this is resonating with you. So again, these blanket statements, they're major red flags, right? That's when you should say, okay, Mayday, something's going on here. Why am I thinking like this, right? So again, those harsh always or never statements. So I always screw up. I'll never be enough. I'll never be able to do this. I always mess this up. And then another one is a constant comparison, right? So when we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people, the scrolling through social media, oh, she's already there, so I'm behind. Or this person already got their house, so what am I doing? I'm still living at home with my mama. You know what I'm saying? So you start you start having these critical thoughts about yourself, but you're going based on other people's lives. You're comparing yourself to other people's situations when you shouldn't, because everyone is different, right? So again, comparison is like a breeding ground for that negative self-talk. So now you start kind of downing yourself because you're seeing something great in someone else. But the funny thing is we all have something great, right? We all have greatness within us. It's just a matter of us noticing what's great about me, what's my strength, because everyone has one. And then again, the last one is dismissing your wins. So you hit a milestone, but then now you're telling yourself, oh, it wasn't a big deal. That's not a big deal. Or anyone could have done that, right? So it's like we start minimizing the things that we actually do, right? So now the negative self-talk, and this is the hard part, is that sometimes it's not like an exaggerated statement. Yes, a lot of times it's, oh, I always do this, or I can never do that. But then sometimes it's as simple as someone congratulating you for a promotion, and you're like, oh, anyone could have gotten that promotion. Or it's not that big of a deal. We don't need to celebrate. Like, no, celebrate yourself, right? Hi, Gabi. Thank you for coming in. We're talking about overcoming negative self-talk. So again, dismissing your wins, that's your inner critic. You have to recognize those thought patterns for what they are. Because sometimes when you hit a milestone and you don't recognize that milestone, or you don't recognize that win, it's like your inner critic is robbing you from celebrating. And when you celebrate yourself, even if it's small, right? Let's say you got a project done at work super quickly and you're like, heck yeah, I did this. But then your coworker's like, oh, great job. That was super quick. And you're like, oh, yeah, anyone could have done that. Oh yeah, that's not a big deal, right? But instead, you could have celebrated yourself and you could have said, oh, you know what? I'm going to go out to eat for lunch today. I'm going to treat myself to a coffee today, right? So there's so many things that you could do to kind of go against that critic, right? And that kind of leads me to part 3. But before we go to part 3, I just want to remind you that when you can spot the critic, when you can spot those negative thoughts and the negative self-talk, you stop mistaking it for your real voice, right? So now you're going to start being able to separate those negative thoughts versus your reality, like who I really am, right? And that's where the power starts. So part 3, we're talking about, I'm going to share 3 different ways to reframe those negative thoughts. And I apologize if I'm looking back and forth, but I got TikTok and I got YouTube on, all right? Hi, everyone on YouTube. So I have people commenting on TikTok, so I apologize if I mention names that you might not see, but that's why, okay? I promise I'm not talking to myself. Okay, so part 3, 3 ways to reframe those negative thoughts. So again, the goal is not to erase negative thoughts, because at the end of the day, let's be real, that's pretty impossible, right? We're not going to be able to always be positive, to always be like, oh my God, like everything's perfect, nothing goes wrong. I don't have any negative thoughts ever, right? So there's always going to be a time where you're going to have a negative thought. And the point of this live is really to just share with you, what can I do when those thoughts come in, right? How can I lessen the amount of those thoughts that come in? So again, the goal isn't to erase the negative thoughts. It's to reframe them so they don't run your life, so they don't dictate the actions that you take, right? And they don't like make your confidence fall apart, right? Hi, Air. Thank you for coming in. So the 3 ways to reframe your negative thoughts are these 3. Number 1, it's to catch it. Number 2, it's to challenge it. And number 3 is to change it. So let's talk about number 1, catching it, right? So you want to build awareness. You want to recognize when that inner critic comes through, right? So like, oh, that's the critic again, right? So you want to catch it. So basically, a really good tip that I've done this before is to keep a note in your phone or a journal that's close by, right? And just have a few of your recurring negative thoughts on there, right? Because then this gives you power, right? This gives you control. Now you feel, okay, I recognize you. Now if I hear you, I'm going to call you out, right? That's what you want. So, and then number 2 is I want you to challenge it. So I want you to ask yourself, is this actually true? Like, where is the evidence, right? Like, where is the evidence that this is true, right? So an example could be, I always mess things up. And then you can challenge it by saying, actually, I handled this same situation 6 months ago really well, right? So are you guys following me so far? Does this make sense so far? Let me know in the comments. Okay, awesome, Debbie. Thank you. Okay, so number 1, we're catching it, right? We're like, nah, that's you again. I hear you, critic, right? I'm not giving you power today. And then number 2, we're going to challenge it. Thank you, Abuela. Number 2, we're going to challenge it, right? So is this true? I always mess things up, right? No, actually, I handled X, Y, and Z really well. So I have the knowledge and I have the power to do this. And then number 3, I want you to change it, right? I want you to replace it with something supportive and believable, right? So, for example, if my negative self-thought is, I will never be a millionaire, right? But then I want to say, oh, actually, I can be a millionaire by tomorrow. Now, okay, that sounds supportive, but is it believable? Right? Because if you don't make your replacement statement believable, then you're not helping yourself, right? So if I say, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow, your mind is going to be like, bruh, seriously? Right? So let's make it believable. So for example, you can say, if someone is saying, I'm not good enough, you can try saying, I'm learning and growing every day. If someone says, I always mess things up, you can say, I'm learning and I will continue to try until I don't mess up. Exactly, Debbie. Debbie on TikTok said, you need to make realistic goals. Exactly. Because if we don't make realistic goals, we're not helping ourselves. We're actually making it worse. Because if you make a crazy goal, and that's not to say that I don't encourage people to make goals, and even if they sound crazy, right? Because sometimes our goals do sound crazy, but we want it to be realistic as well, right? So if I told you that I want to have my doctorate degree by next year, you're going to look at me like I'm crazy. Because a doctorate, you can't do that in a year when you still need to do your master's. You still need, you know what I'm saying? So there's certain things you have to be realistic with goals, right? And it's the same thing with this. With those negative thoughts, you want to be realistic because you want to give yourself power. You don't want to prove the thoughts wrong, because that's the issue. If you're not realistic and you set a thought, right? Now you're reinforcing that you couldn't do it. Now you're reinforcing that you're not good enough, right? So that's what we want to avoid. So we want to start with small shifts that start kind of stacking on top of each other and create new beliefs for ourselves, right? So I want you guys to share with me one negative thought that you catch yourself saying. And then I want to reframe it live with you tonight. So I want you to share one negative thought that you catch yourself saying. And then I want to reframe it live with you. Hi, Foster. Welcome in. Let me know if you have a negative thought that you catch yourself saying often, and I want to reframe it live with you tonight. There's always someone who can do it better. So Debbie on TikTok said, there's always someone who can do it better. Okay, so let's reframe that together. There's always someone who can do it better. Okay, so I want to, because that's comparing yourself, right? So I want to take away from the comparison, because at the end of the day, there is always going to be someone that could do something better, right? Like, imagine, imagine if I went to a restaurant and I said, well, chef, actually, I'm going to cook the lasagna instead of you. The chef's gonna look at me like I'm crazy, right? We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So instead of saying there's always someone who can do it better, how about we look at yourself and say, I can always learn to do something better, right? I can always equip myself to learn more. So how about we change that statement from there's always someone who can do it better to there is always a way for me to learn and be better, right? What do you think about that, Debbie? Does that sound good? Okay, nice. Yay. Okay, Foster on YouTube said, it's people bullying me in school for my name. No. Give me that school's name. Me and my friends will pull up right now. I don't like that. No, that's not nice. So what is the thought that's coming in your mind? I know that's what people are doing, but what is that negative thought that keeps creeping in your mind? Or is that the thought? Are you thinking that people are bullying you because of your name? You get mad and frustrated? So how about instead of, because this is something that's happening to you, right? So it's not necessarily a thought that you're having, someone else is putting that on you. So how about instead of doing that, when, let's see, what the thought is that no one's going to start bullying me. So basically you're feeling like you have this thought like, oh my God, now that every time I go to school, someone's going to bully me. Or they're not going to stop bullying me, right? So how about we change that thought and we start talking to ourselves. So every day before school, you can start off your day, I will be strong. I will not let these bullies get to me. I want you to empower yourself, because this is more of an external thing. You're not saying it to yourself. This is someone trying to lower your energy. They're putting negativity on you, and that's not right. Hey, Nika on TikTok. It's all good. No worries. Basically, I was asking people to share a negative thought that they catch themselves saying, and then we can reframe it together live today. So for example, Debbie said there's always someone who can do it better. And I said, how about we reframe that and say that there's always a way I can learn and do better. right? Instead of making it about someone else where you have no control, you can kind of switch it. Hey Foster, I have Debbie from TikTok. She has a message for you. So she says, a bully is trying to break you down because they know how strong you are. Exactly. Period. Aw, thank you so much, Foster. Feel free to reach out if you ever need to talk, if you ever want to kind of get some advice. We got many people here that are willing to send you positivity and love, okay? But like Debbie said, a bully's trying to break you down because they know how strong you are. They see something in you that they don't have. So I want you to keep that in your mind, okay? And if you ever need to get help from an adult, if this gets too much, do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Yep. So stay strong, Foster. All right? And Nika on TikTok, if you can hear me, let me know if you have a negative thought that you catch yourself saying often to yourself, and then we can reframe it live. Hey, Maddie. Thank you for coming. Of course, Foster said thank you a lot, Debbie. And then Foster, Debbie wanted me to let you know that always speak up. Don't keep it in, okay? Don't internalize that. It's too much. It's too heavy. So I want to remind you that when we reframe these negative thoughts, you're not just changing the words, right? You're rewriting the story that you believe about yourself. And that's where the strength comes from, okay? So we want to change these words, sure, but the point is to rewrite that story that you've believed all these years, or that you've believed because someone else put it on you, or that you've believed because you failed a couple times, right? So now that we've shared a little bit about the negative thoughts that we've said to ourselves, I want you to think about one kind thing that you can say to yourself today. And I want you to share it in the comments, because your kind thing that you can say to yourself might resonate with someone else. So I want to share the good vibes, you know? I want to share the positivity. So one kind thing that I can say to myself today is good job. Good job. It was a hard day and you still showed up. You still tried your best. And I still came on here live even though work was crazy. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for doing that. So what's one kind thing you can say to yourself today? And share it in the comments. That way I can share with other people. And I know a couple of you guys are driving, so please don't comment. Let's be safe. So just share one kind thing that you can say to yourself today. And it could be simple. It could just be, good job. It could be, you're beautiful. It could be simple. It doesn't need to be too deep. Foster on YouTube said, mine is keep up the good work. Yes. Keep up the good work, Foster. I love that. Mama said, I'm blessed on TikTok. She said, I'm blessed. And every day I get stronger. Yes. Love that. Debbie, do you have one? What's one kind thing you can say to yourself today? There is always tomorrow. Yup. Exactly. Because today was, and Debbie, me and her work together. So it's been a hard week at work, but we've done the thing, okay? We've made it work. So there is always tomorrow. So we got Foster on YouTube, keep up the good work. We got Debbie saying there's always tomorrow. And we got Mama saying I'm blessed and every day I get stronger. So let's keep those in the front of our mind for the rest of the day. We got this. We got to keep up the good work. There's always tomorrow. And tomorrow will be better, right? Say it again, Foster. You said, do you like a teacher? Do I look like a teacher? Is that what you're saying? Like, do I teach? If that's what you're saying for work, I work in a chemical plant. So I actually work in a lab, in a chemical lab. So I do testing on chemical stuff. Yeah. So I'm like a little mad scientist. So every week, I like to do a little mini win, little mini challenge. Oh, okay, Foster, I see it now. Are you like a teacher? Okay, so on my 9 to 5, like my regular job, I work as a chemical lab technician. So I work in a lab setting and I work with chemicals. And then, but here on my business channel, I started a business for coaching. So I'm really passionate about helping people reach their goals, kind of learn themselves again, really understand who they are at their core. And if they're having issues with finding themselves or understanding what they want to do in their future, that's what I want to be there for. I would love to help people in those moments and really help them love themselves again and understand where they want to be in life and where they want to go, right? And let's see, Debbie said, so Debbie works with me, Foster, and she said, yes, helping us that mess up in production. She works in production, so she's actually making the chemicals and all that cool stuff. And there's been a couple mix-ups in production this week that we've been trying to figure out. So it's been a fun, crazy week, okay? And then my mama said, you'll be a great teacher, to be honest. See, I would be a great teacher, but it has to be in small quantities. Yeah. And Debbie said life coach. Exactly. Yeah, life coach. I hope that makes sense, Foster. I know I said a lot. Sorry. So again, I have a mini win challenge for you guys. So your mini win this week, I want you to take one negative thought that you often repeat to yourself, and I want you to rewrite it with something positive and true about yourself. So every time it pops up, I want you to say the new version instead. Foster said, okay, plot twist. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. And then Debbie on TikTok said, she is definitely my life coach, always keeping me sane. Yes. We hear. Oh, Foster, that's cool. Foster on YouTube said, I really like science class. Yeah, that was one of my favorite classes too. It's a lot of fun, honestly. Stick to it. Honestly, that's my advice to everyone. If you find something that you really like, I would say put your energy into that first. Before everything else, because your happiness and the joy that things that you like bring, you can't force that. It just comes natural, So if you notice that you lean towards something naturally, I would say lean in. Yeah, that's awesome. Foster, do you mind me? I hope you don't mind me asking, but are you in high school or are you in college? Okay, sorry. So again, your mini win for this week, I want you to take one negative thought you often repeat and then rewrite it into something positive and true. Every time it pops up, I want you to say that new version instead. Foster said, don't let the bully's actions get to my mind. I love that. And if you need to write that down, if you need to have it on your phone, do it. Because it'll be a constant reminder. You got this. Do y'all have any questions for me before I start closing out the live? Let me know. Did everything make sense for you guys? Mama said yes. Awesome. Foster, how about you? Everything makes sense to you? Awesome. So, next week, the topic is going to be cultivating patience with your journey as you grow, right? So sometimes, high school. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. That's great. Yeah, high school is hard. Yeah. High school is hard. But you got this. So, next week, I'm going to be talking about... Aw, thank you, Joey. Joey on TikTok said, El nene dice, great job, Kari. Thank you. That's my brother, y'all. Love you guys. So next week, we're going to be talking about cultivating patience with your growth journey. And what that means is as we grow in life and as we go from different stages in our lives, we have to go through growing pains. We have to make changes in our lives, right? And sometimes it's very hard to be patient in those moments. And we tend to get really hard on ourselves when things don't go the way we plan, right? So I'm going to actually have a special guest come join us, and her name is Jovi. And she recently went through this. She recently had a major change in her life. And she has shown such patience and beauty in those changes and in that growth. And she's been so open about it. And I'm just super excited to have her join us and share her story with you guys too. So we're going to be doing that, I believe, not this Monday, but the following Monday. So it'll be on the 29th. Okay. So in the meantime, I'll be posting some short videos here and there, but that'll be the big event that we're going to be having. So I'm super excited to do that with her. I'm not sure how I can do it on YouTube, but Foster, if you want to attend that event that I'll be hosting on the 29th, feel free to follow me on TikTok because I know how to do a guest on there. I'm not really sure how to do that on YouTube just yet. If not, I can send you the video after the fact, after we do it. But yeah, so I hope that you guys can be there. I'm super excited for it. I think her story is really going to motivate everyone and really show you that if she can do it, if I could do it, y'all could do it too. All right. Oh, you said you're in 7th grade. Oh, wait, isn't that middle school? Oh, so you got time. You got time before high school. Honestly, I feel like middle school is worse than high school. So if you can make it through middle school, you'll be all right for high school. I feel kids can be a little bit more rough in middle school. People tend to care a little bit less in high school. Awesome. Hey, Kimberly. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your time today. And Foster, feel free. Aw, happy birthday. Foster said that on September 29th is his birthday. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, if you have plans, go do your thing. But for sure, check it out. And you can always send me a message if you ever need encouragement, if you ever need advice. I'm a mom, so yeah, I have 2 boys. They're my little babies. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. So All right, y'all. I hope y'all have a beautiful night. I hope you have a beautiful weekend. Thank God tomorrow's Friday. And yeah, so I'll be seeing you guys throughout the week, and I'll send you updates on that event that I'm having on the 29th. Okay? So I hope you have a great night. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for liking the live and sharing. I really appreciate it. Mama said, have a blessed night, everyone. Love you. Love you guys. Have a great night. Take care, and I'll see you soon.